Here to address those concerns and offer a point of view, at least leaning leftward, is our friend who's the senior advisor for Progressives United, Josh Orton, Skyping in today from the home of the Pail and Shovel Party. That would be Madison, Wisconsin. Although I guess technically the Pail and Shovel Party was part of the University of Wisconsin and student government there back in the day. Josh, we welcome you here to America's Forum.
Good morning.
Earlier on this program, Republican Congressman Frank Wolf was documenting what has transpired in terms of the persecution of Christians in Iraq by the ISIS group, the modern caliphate, if you will. And given the fact that Iraqi Christians are confronted with death, Congressman Wolf was saying President Obama needs to speak out on the issue. Let's listen to what Frank Wolf had to say, and then I'd like you to respond.
Despite these Christian leaders speaking out about the systematic extermination of Christians in Iraq, the silence in this town in Washington is deafening. Does Washington even care?
So that's Frank Wolf yesterday. He's told us he's headed back to the floor of the House this afternoon. Again, he is calling for some sort of visible activity and comment from President Obama. Josh, what is your take? Are we going to hear from the president on religious persecution in Iraq and other places?
Well, I think everyone agrees that religious persecution is a problem all over the world. Iraq is obviously a specifically problematic place, primarily because Nouri al-Maliki has been unable to put together a coalition government. So we see this power vacuum that ISIS is filling. So, I certainly understand the concerns of religious persecution by ISIS, but, it seems to me that this is a more fundamental problem with the way Iraq is governed. You look at the other countries that have historically been on the list that America's watched for specific religious persecution, and, countries like North Korea, Burma, Sudan. Iraq is a little bit different just because they're really, it's hard to argue that there is an actual stable or accountable government at all. So I agree that of course religious persecution is a problem, but there may be more fundamental issues in Iraq that before we can address that.
Josh, do you think this rabbi will be a true advocate for religious liberty?
I do. I think Rabbi Saperstein has an excellent reputation. I think we saw the announcement of Obama's intent to nominate him met with near universal praise. Rabbi Saperstein was actually one of the original supporters of the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. This is the law that the Hobby Lobby case interpreted. So I do think that the rabbi will do an excellent job. I'm especially glad to see his appointment in light of some of the rise of violent anti-Semitism that we're seeing in Europe. And I think he will be easily confirmed.
Now, Josh, Bill Donahue of the Catholic League issued a scathing criticism of President Obama, writing in part, and I quote now, "Christians are being beheaded all over the Middle East because they are Christians, and those carrying out this mass murder are doing so in the name of Islam. Yet you continue to say and do absolutely nothing about these unspeakable crimes. Do Christians mean so little to you?" Your response to what Bill Donahue had to say.
Well, with respect to Mr. Donahue, I think that he's ignoring a lot of the work that the United States has done internationally to protect religious freedom. We just saw the case recently of the young woman from Sudan who converted to Christianity, leave with the help of the Italian government, and come to America. So I understand that Mr. Donahue has a narrow specific interest related to his group. I don't agree at all that the Obama administration has been ignoring the issue. And frankly, I'm not, I understand his concerns, related to his organization and their specific issues. But, I guess I would argue that his viewpoints are outside of the mainstream of even Christian religious belief in America. And look, in the end, elections have consequences. So Rabbi Saperstein's nomination follows the ideology, his ideology, especially related to contraception, mirrors that of the Obama administration. So I don't think it should be at all a surprise that the Obama administration nominated someone that reflects their views, and I think he's going to do an excellent job.
I want to change topics with you real quickly because you're in Wisconsin. I want to ask you about this Wisconsin State Supreme Court ruling that came down today, and I'm quoting from an AP article right here. The Wisconsin Supreme Court on Thursday upheld The 2011 law that effectively ended collective bargaining for most public workers, it sparked those massive protests we saw at the state capitol there in Madison, and it led to the recall of Governor Scott Walker. I wanted to get your take here because this, as referenced in this story, effectively ends collective bargaining and potentially could be a big knock against public sector unions in the state of Wisconsin.
Well, I think public sector unions were already suffered a big knock. And look, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, majority conservative, elected justices, I think their ruling here was about as predictable as the sun coming up. Folks didn't expect this court to uphold the rights of working people in public sector unions. We've seen this court historically be very favorable politically to the Walker administration. So I'm not sure that anyone is looking for a fainting couch over here. I think this is a pretty predictable decision.
But Josh, considering that the unions lost in the recall effort, now they've lost at the Wisconsin Supreme Court, what's next?
Well, I think that Walker won the recall, which entitled him to serve until the next election. And I think that what we've seen, especially in the last couple of months, the numbers have started to shift in Wisconsin. We're feeling a bit of a change here, and Walker's popularity has always been fairly consistent, but he's always had a ceiling in popularity. And close watchers of this election are seeing that ceiling drop a point and a half. So I think that Walker's agenda is going to come up again in the November ballot, and I'm not quite as pessimistic as I once was about his challenger Mary Burke's chances of beating him. I actually think she has a great chance. And look, Scott Walker took advantage of an incredible political vacuum in the state of Wisconsin. As in his terms, he dropped the bomb sort of unexpectedly, spurning these weeks and weeks of massive protests from working people. So look, I agree that politically he's been quite savvy. It remains to be seen whether his policies will be approved again once again at the ballot box.
Well, Josh Orton, this really previews where we're headed tomorrow. We may have to rope you back in to come back with us tomorrow because we're going to be talking more about what's going on with Scott Walker and what may transpire in Wisconsin. For now, we thank you coming to us from that hotbed on the left, Madison, Wisconsin. Always good to have you, Josh.
You bet.
So, you heard what Josh had to say. This interesting ruling from the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. We'd love to have your comments on it. Why don't you tweet us your comments at NewsmaxTV, #America's Forum. There's also NewsmaxTV.com/comment. And don't forget Facebook.